All right, dude, you need to get out the camera, bro.
Fucking cat's like, oh, you're recording? I'm on.
Yeah, I guess he's gonna just join. It's all right.
We were
Maybe
like,
I
we
could
mentioned
ghost.
demons, and your cat was like, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, dude?
You mentioned demons and his cat starts scratching his face.
You can just chill right here. Yeah, dude.
Well,
So-
episode 43, everybody.
So 43,
We're back.
back in action.
No, so I guess we were talking about off camera is just our own internal demons. And one of the things that we were saying that I was saying that, something I deal with sometimes is like these moments of anger, but I realize that anger actually is a defense mechanism that comes from fear, right? So I fear, like in relationship, I fear being hurt because I was hurt in my past. And so then something happens that triggers that, and then it actually comes out in anger, which ends up being me lashing out. And it seems like I'm just being an asshole, but it's actually just a defense mechanism I built over the years trying to protect myself. But we can equate that to kind of an inner demon because what does that do? It ends up causing problems. You end up saying stupid shit, hurting people. But your ego is like, hey, I'm just trying to protect you. But at the end of the day, you don't need protection from that. It's just because it's an old fear, an old hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have experienced that with anything specific in your life.
Oh, dude, anger used to rule my life.
That's
I
true.
feel-
I remember when I met you. You were an angry little elf.
This angry little leprechaun.
Well, I am
Yeah.
short. They say short people are angry,
Yeah, it's because you got closer to hell.
Nate had the little man syndrome. It's kind of like a little angry chihuahua.
Well, when I think about that, though, I think about breaking generational curses, like your own inner demons. There's some people that say that stuff's passed on through generations. So, like anger
I
or
agree with
whatever
that.
it is. So, like for me, I had the realization of like, oh, I was kind of raised by anger a little bit, and then I had a son, and had kids, and I was like, I don't want this to, like, now that I'm wiser in it because I experienced it myself. Like me and my wife talk about generational stuff all the time. Like we're here to break the mold, and I think that's what everyone who's here now is, with everything happening, is here for. And I think that anger is, like you said, Brian, you might not even realize it. There's a little bit of pride in it, but most of it is based off of fear or control.
Mhm.
So then if stuff doesn't go your way, then you get mad, and then how do you project that anger, right? So for me now, where I'm at now, like, do I still get angry and sometimes say stuff I shouldn't? Yes, but I'm a hell of a lot better than I used to be.
Mhm.
So like now I'm wiser. So even if an incident happens where I'm like yelling at my son, I'll go back to him like 10, 15 minutes later. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry for how I reacted, but this is why I reacted this way. Like being able to explain, not just to a kid, but especially a kid, but to anybody. Like you're doing two things. You're acknowledging your own quote unquote failure, which is not a failure because you're taking accountability for it.
Yeah.
And you're like, for my son, he gets angry easily too sometimes. So I'm like, hey, does your anger serve you? I was like, what do I tell you about your anger? But that's just one small little glimpse into inner demons, because it's all like, I believe demons are both beings and also within ourselves, because like you said, Brian, we have a light and a dark side to us. Every person does. That's kind of how we're created.
Mhm.
But I think that, and we've talked about this before, especially as men, we need to be able to temper that and forge it and humble ourselves into making it useful when it's required. But because like when I kind of touched on it a little bit, but when I was in the military, I lived all off of that pride and sort of like aggression.
Ego.
Mm-hmm. I will say is that, like, I think having ego death is like the best thing you can have. And I don't know, have you guys ever had an ego death before?
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Couple two tree.
I feel like that kind of equates to like Dark Night of the Soul, right? Where it's just like you kind of identify with like the bullshit you've done, or you the ego's protection mechanisms, and it's like you got to be able to break that down. That's why something, I don't know if I mentioned it last podcast, but something I really want to go do and I've studied a lot into and saw some documentaries on is like ayahuasca ceremonies. Because basically ayahuasca, that's what it does. It dissolves the ego. And then a shaman walks you through it and allows you to release all these things that your ego has basically been trying to suppress inside of you because it's trying to protect you. And it basically, the ayahuasca, that tea just dissolves all of that and allows you to release everything you've been repressing and suppressing for so many years. So it's something I definitely want to go experience. One of the main places to go is Peru. There's a place
Mhm.
called Arcana there. It's like some really like versed shamans that know how to just walk you through your shit when you're going through it. So
About you, Nick, you ever had an ego death?
Yeah, I did recently actually. How did it happen? That's the part to think about. So, I mean, I already know how it happened. It's just like, it's kind of like it's grief, it's loss is when the ego death happens. At least for me. I mean, everything happens differently for people. For me though, it happened when I lost things like, it could be a death in the family, it could be somebody you love, or just losing in general. And like, how we get like that pride and like that sense of like, oh, like what the fuck, we get angry and this and that because it's our ego trying to protect us from other emotions. But in reality, it's just another armor that we need to break and face.
mhm.
And how I dealt with it is just like, I made a thing about it today about an ego death. I said something really good today. I posted on Instagram about it. Basically, like what it is, like an ego death is basically you stop caring about what validation is. You stop caring about what other people think of you. You stop giving a shit. And you kind of just start doing your own thing. Like you start moving in your own way instead of trying to say, oh, well, how would these people look at it? Or how would they think? You stop caring about that because at that point, you're just like, nothing else matters. I just want to move forward and continue my path. And at that point, it's a very beautiful thing because it's also very freeing once you lose your ego. Because at that point, you're more open to other things. You know what I mean?
Definitely when you release the need for validation. External validation is like something that people struggle with so much, right? Is like we're trying to get everybody's approval. And something I've learned is that, no matter what you do, like I try to live from integrity and be a great man and do all these things, but at the same time, like I realize that 50% of the people aren't going to like me anyway, and 50% of the people will. So it doesn't really matter. It's like
Right.
I'm not there for a good or bad opinion of anyone. Like I'm going to live the life that I feel I'm supposed to, leading from spirit, and whatever comes with that comes with that. And I mean, you can go back to somebody like Jesus. I mean, people hated Jesus, and he was just living from the space of he knew what he came to do. So,
Yeah. Jesus was all about love, and people hated him just for existing.
hmm absolutely.
Even
because
those.
people who awaken, like especially nowadays, everything is attempted to be controlled by fear.
Yep.
Because if people actually awaken to the truth of things, and you're an individual who can't be swayed because you've gone through that dark night of the soul and you've identified and experienced certain things, and you're like, I'm not here to serve the world. I'm here to serve what God put me here to do.
Yeah.
Those are the people that can't be controlled by others.
No. And they're also the realest people you'll ever meet.
Yep. That's why I
Because
say it's like when you can't be bought, right? You can't be bought. You can't be persuaded to be different so that people will approve of you. You just stand for what you believe. You know what I mean? I was just having a conversation like a day or two ago saying that, I have this thing inside of me that's just like, to stand against all these systems, these governments and all the bullshit. Like I've always felt that. I'm like, man, we people just fall in line because kind of like Nate mentioned, like, fear, shame, guilt, that's what they use to try to keep people in line, right? And it's like, dude, you know what? They do that so that they keep you small. But if we were to all just come together and understand, like we're here to create a new system, that's why we're here at this time on this planet, is to create a new system that actually serves the whole and not just the few, right?
Yeah. Because, they're designing it as fear, and fear can run to many aspects. People think that they're doing the right thing out of fear and protection, but in reality, they're just making others suffer with their own fear and guilt and whatever.
Or what's even more dangerous than that is that when
Yeah.
people think they're doing the right thing through deception.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the biggest thing right now is like everyone thinks they're on the right path, but really if your path has to have you like go and hurt another, no matter where you stand, like if you have to hurt another person in order to feel whatever, then you're doing it wrong. It's the wrong thing. And that's how I see it. No matter what side you sit on, if you have to hurt someone, that's not good. You shouldn't
Yeah,
be doing
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. most definitely.
You know, the other thing too about the ego death is like it also like comes from like, you know, in a relationship or a sense, you know, like it comes from when you can't control the situation. Remember what we talked about last time? Can't control the situation, so like, you know, you just shit, I'm losing my thought. Guys should pick this up.
Well, I can go from there. I mean, like,
Yeah.
isn't it amazing? Like, Nate mentioned it earlier as well. Isn't it amazing how that like the anger comes to the surface, like Nate said, when you're trying to control something, right? And then the
Yeah,
outcome,
yeah.
because we don't know what the outcome will be from anything we do in this life, right? So you
Right.
literally have to go in and live with the heart wide open and really drop the ego and just be like, okay, here I am. Here's my open heart. Like you, like Nick, you just like kind of you directed it toward a relationship, and that's something like I've realized that's been a biggest challenge for me is like opening my heart completely after having been hurt when I was younger. So now it's like when something comes up that it doesn't even exist, but the potential of being hurt, it's like anger arises for me, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm just like, holy shit, because they create stories in my head. The ego's like, hey, remember this, remember that, this could happen and that can happen. And it's really just trying to not suppress, but quiet that ego and realize like you don't need to be angry, you don't need to try to control an outcome because at the end of the day, we have zero control of the outcome of anything in life. We just have to
Right.
live with a heart wide open and go for what we need to go for, you know?
And you know, like and this is you're right about that because the other thing too is like, you know, most of us are meant to walk alone. You know, we're all people. We all have our own paths that are made for us to walk, and we just happen to end up stumbling upon someone who wants to walk it with us, even if it's for a season, temporary, whatever. You know, no one truly belongs to you. You know what I'm saying? That's the other thing. No one truly belongs to you because we're all walking different paths in a sense. You know, even if you're married, whatever, have kids, you know, you see couples get divorced all the time, and you know, like I said, nothing truly belongs to you in this world.
I always tell people that what you just said, we're all on our own path. And so that's why I tell people even about our children. Like, you know, oftentimes we try to control our children and where they're headed. And I tell people like it's our job to direct them and maybe share wisdom with what we've experienced. But at the end of the day, they're on their own path and they need to experience what they need to experience because it's their path, it's their journey.
Hmm.
And so that's another sense where that's another area we try to control. We try to control kids, we try to control partners, and like you said, everybody comes to be a part of your path, but maybe it's only for a season. Even kids, even family, a partner, whoever, they're not all intended to be there for the entire, you know, trip that you're on. So that's why I tell
Right.
people like be okay with when people and things come and go because God, the universe is bringing in and removing things and people for a purpose. Sometimes it's creating space. I tell people when things are removed, sometimes it's to create space so that you have more time with the creator, right? So it's like, you know, because the creator's like, I need you to spend more quiet time with me. And if you're constantly distracted by all these other people that have all these needs from you, how can you like really get alone and just be with me? So sometimes they will remove a partner or whatever. Be like, I need you to get quiet and get with me.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you know, the only ones that we should be writing are ourselves, you know?
Hmm.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, that's actually a lot of what I've heard is like the devil can't stop you, so he tries to get you to stop you. The only person that can stop you is yourself.
Yeah. That's
And
it.
it comes from that ego, that fear, that control, or wanting to control things, not knowing the outcomes, allowing those little negative inner demons to control your thoughts, which is what we talk about, Brian, is you know, change your thoughts, change your life.
Hmm.
Because like I said before, I think people give Satan or the devil too much credit because ultimately none of those lower energy forces, whatever you want to call them, they only have power over you if you allow it. But
Yep.
that's where you have to be able to awaken to like the reality of the physical and the spiritual world, because I've seen too many things align in my life where I'm like, this isn't just like by coincidence or whatever, good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like a lot of people focus too much on the bad and then they wonder and like, you know, like one bad thing can happen, but also like 10 good things could happen before that bad thing. And you completely forget all about the good things because you're so focused on the bad and you're overthinking, you're fearful, you know, all that over that one little incident that could have been either nothing or, you know, you did something or something happened to you, which I get, I mean, because that's creates trauma and whatever happened. But you know, we focus too much on the bad. We don't ever focus too much on the good because good happens around us every single day. And there's actually more good that happens to us than there is bad if we think about it. Like someone, so even as simple as a stranger coming up to you and saying hello, or just randomly being kindness. You know, random kindness. to me, whenever anywhere I go, I've always somehow connected with strangers. So when I talk to strangers, it's like, I see that as like a sign from my God of being like, hey, you're safe here. Like people are actually like cool here. Like you can talk
Stranger
to them.
danger.
Huh?
Yeah,
This
I
is
thought the
stranger
same.
danger.
I
Yeah,
thought the
yeah. I mean,
same
you gotta be
thing.
careful.
I
You
thought
can't be
the-
deceived. You gotta definitely be careful because some people will use niceness to get to you. But if you have a good head on your shoulders, you can kind of tell. You know what I mean?
And also goes back to like you were saying, like it's just the changing your perspective on things. Like we say things like bad things happen to us, like you said, like that's when when we allow our brain to go into primal states, right? So it's survival mode. That's when you look at like you heighten that one thing that appears to be bad when in all reality it's actually trying to help you. So even like when you're trying to figure out something about yourself, right? It's like you go into that primal state, then you're blinded by the ego coming in and trying to protect you when you really just need to like let that down and see like what am I trying to release here? What am I trying to learn? And so like I look at everything as like, dude, everything's here to benefit me. Even when it's a challenge, even when I'm going through something hard, even if it's something I do and I fuck up, I'm like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Like
Right.
this is actually here to serve me. And that's what I tell people. If you change your perspective, like we said, Nate, change your thoughts, change your life. If you look at life and say, okay, life is always trying to serve me, you'll see that it actually really is.
Mhm.
Even the greatest challenges are trying to teach you something about you and trying to make you better.
Yeah, what's crazy is you ever interact with someone like a family member or a friend or something, and it's just like they're just constantly on this negative spiral every day of their life.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
from like years ago to now, when I see it, I'm like, oh, this is more than just you being depressed or whatever. This is like spiritual warfare because there's like a weird sense of comfort in being miserable, I think. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's true
It's like
because it's like
weird.
it goes back to like a safety. I know because I've done that before. I like where sometimes you seek misery more than you seek anything else because you're just so comfortable in it. To where like you want to feel that way because you just feel like you're just so used to feeling that way and you should feel that way and that bad things should just happen to you.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Like there was one.
It's the familiar known, right? It's the familiar known. So even if it does cause suffering, it's like, it's like that's like so it's kind of where if you want to go to the word self-sabotage, that's where that comes from, right? It's kind of like, well, I know this feeling, I'm so used to it, I'm so comfortable with it, even though it's fucking you over every time, you'll go back to it because your brain's like, well, I already know this. That's why they say like when you really decide to make a change, like get ready for the battle because that's when the ego's really going to flare up and be like, what the fuck, what's going on? Why are you trying to change the way you think? Why are you trying to change the way you are and act and be? And then that old self, that lower self, is always going to try to just like flare back up. Wait a minute, this is what you've known for so long. And that's what I realized. Like I've made a shit ton of change in the last like year and a half, almost 2 years, but I still see that old smaller self try to come back and be like, hold on, I'm here to protect you, but it's actually not. It's just there to, but basically it's there to fucking destroy you. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
there to hold you back from your potential and tell you you're no good.
absolutely,
Even though it comes from a good intention, it doesn't. You know.
exactly.
Well, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
The road to hell is all about roses and whatever. It may look nice, but it's not.
Exactly. Well, that's why they say like, to be the 1% who actually makes change in their life, it's like that path is very narrow, right? Because it's like, you have to stick to that path, even when it's uncomfortable, even when things are coming against you, people are coming against you. It's like if you stick to it, it's very uncomfortable. But when you get to the other side of it, it's beauty. But that takes consistency and discipline to be on that path and stay there for as long as it takes to get to the other side.
Exactly. It's literally like being a noble man in this entire world right now. Being a noble man, being like walking like the hero's path, or
The
being like
hero's
a knight.
journey.
Yeah, being like a knight of God or whoever, and you're just you have this code and these morals to be nothing but righteous and good to all, even the ones that try to come at you. You just have restraint, and it's like nothing more than a test. You know what I mean? And it's all like if you look at it that way, that's kind of like how I've seen it. Like everything is just one big giant test that we're constantly going through to become more. Because we're always going to be becoming in our entire lives. There's no way around that. We're
Mhm.
always going to be changing, like every day, every year.
And if you
And
don't, you stay the same. Those are the people that if they get to live till they're old, they live with regret, right? Those are the
Mhm.
people you ask, like, hey, like, how was your life? Well, it's like shit. I could have done so much more and lived so much better, but I was so afraid. I just stayed in the comfortable known, right? Which is actually a false comfort. So
Right.
Well, another thing too is what y'all were just talking about made me think. when I think of humility, I think of and being noble. To me, I view it as being, like I've said before, being aligned with God. And if you're not, and you truly want it, God will usually break you into 1,000 pieces and then put you back together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, to be a good person takes a lot of sacrifice in different ways, I would say. Like sacrificing that comfortable misery, sacrificing the what you're familiar with, so that you can become who God always meant you to be. And what you were saying, Nick, about like being noble, and kind of like what I said earlier, like those are the types of people that the world fears because you can't control them. And that's why, like, for me, I'm like, the only being that I bow to is God. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You
Exactly.
could be the president of the United States. I don't give a shit.
If you have a bunch of people that do that,
Oh yeah.
things will change in a heartbeat.
Rapidly. That's what I keep saying, is like, that's one of the things I've been speaking out for years, is like, I want to, do what we can. This is why we have this podcast, right? Spread this message, bring people together and help us unite to stand against all the bullshit, so that we can make that massive change, right?
Yeah.
It's that 100th monkey effect. I mean, you get 10 million people to go in to the same thing with the same vision and stick to it, dude. You can make massive change in this world. So
It's all about just integrity and just keeping to your honor and just keep moving forward. Discipline, all of it.
yep.
As long as you have those, as long as you have those three, I think you're gonna be all right. Because like I said, you don't give a shit. People could come at you with their opinion. They could try to paint you whatever they want. Look at what they did to Jesus. He didn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But you know what I found is that once you start going down that path, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Once you, like we talked about in a previous episode, like once you start to, once you wake up, you can't go back.
No, there's no going back.
Exactly.
You can't go back, bro.
There's no going back. Like right now, like I can't go back to the same person I was like 6 months ago to a year ago. Like I can't do that because like there's no different. Like I'm totally different now.
Mhm.
And like I like who I am now versus who I was, because like who I was used to just be a people pleaser. I used to care what other people thought of me. I used to care about validation. Used to care about all this shit. But then I realized all these people are like, everyone's doing that, and then in the end you end up suffering from doing that because you're marching with the band that doesn't want to, create music. They want to just create control. You know what I mean? So you're just
Falling in
like,
line.
yeah. And I don't want to fall in line. I want to break free and do my own shit. I want to go, like, that's why I did all what I'm doing right now. It's like just breaking free and finding other people to do that with,
Mhm.
because you want to find people who you can win with and who you can grow with, because those are the realest people you'll ever meet in this life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's very,
People that want to lift you up and see you succeed.
yeah. And like I will probably say, like, luckily for me, like in my life, I try to surround myself with that. But at the same time, you got people who just want to remain stuck or remain the same, and then they become miserable and they take out sorry. They become miserable, and then they use that miserableness to take out on other people, and they wonder why they're so miserable all the time, and they wonder why the world's not as nice as they want it to be.
We're all energetic, man. Like if you're putting out a certain energy, that's the energy that's going to boomerang back to you. So I tell people, be careful about what you're putting out.
And that's why I say, if you spread more positivity, then more good things will happen, I believe. And it does. And, there's proof of that. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens 2 weeks, 6 months. You never know. You'll get blessed.
Absolutely.
Just keep putting good in the world.
Absolutely. And that good, or that return of that blessing, usually is 100 times more. And you don't usually, oftentimes we miss how it comes because usually doesn't come back in the same way you put it out.
Yeah, because it just comes so natural that you're just like, oh, I didn't think of that way.
Mhm.
I
didn't even see that. Yeah.
I think that's a part of being aware, is that like, we're so programmed that we just freaking, not we, but society just looks at things like, oh, whatever.
Mhm.
Right.
Or, oh, cool. Or, oh, I got lucky. And I'm just like, there's no such thing as a coincidence. I don't think there's any such thing as luck either.
No.
That's the same word to me.
Mhm.
Luck and coincidence. No, that was divine alignment, whichever way it went.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's divine alignment, divine timing. Yeah, there's never, it's like when people are like, oh, I was in the right place at the right time. Well, you were there, you were put there divinely. You were that chess piece moved to that place to meet that person to get that opportunity to shift your life in whatever way you needed to. That's what we say. It's like, coincidence, the word coincidence is two things that coincide, two things that come together, right? Next to each other. There's no such thing as like a coincidence.
No, not at all. I agree
It's
with
all
that
it's all synchronicity. Carl Jung, coined the term synchronicity because he said like once you're in alignment, you start to see the synchronicities everywhere. You're like, wow, I met that person, had that conversation, the resources came, the right time came, and everything worked out. It's because you were in alignment.
Well,
Yep.
that's a part of like people shifting their mindset instead of like whatever it is that you do. Like if you're talking with God, instead of just being like, "Why did this happen to me?" or "Why me?" you start saying, "Send me,"
Mm-hmm.
because we're all here to make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where that kind of sacrifice comes in, because now you have to carry something that God meant for you to carry, but maybe you didn't think that was ever a thing, and you're like, why do I have to carry this when others don't? You know what I mean? I think sometimes that can be kind of like an ego thing too.
Dude, no, sometimes I hate how it just feels like a lot of pressure's on, like, and you're the one that's causing it. No one else is. It's just how you hold yourself. It's your standard.
Mm-hmm.
And but also too, if you hold yourself to such a high standard, I think that it's a great thing because it helps you grow more,
And
Like
that
right.
pressure, like you're talking about, Nick, that pressure, that's just like, it's just like when you create a diamond, right? A diamond's created under pressure.
Exactly.
So it's like us, we a better version of us is created under pressure. It sucks being under that pressure because that's what makes it so tempting to kind of fall back into the small self, the old self, because you're like, well, if I do that, I don't have to feel all this like shitty pressure. But at the end of the day, you'll never reach the pinnacle of what you could if you just keep going into that pressure.
Right.
Well, Brian, you and I have kind of touched on that before in previous episodes. Like the best I've ever I perform my best when I'm under pressure.
Under pressure.
Absolutely.
Like we touched on, like that's almost like when time stops and you're just focused on exactly what you need to do.
Mm.
But now that I'm older and I've experienced a little bit more life, I'm like, oh, is that the kind of gift? Because some people can't perform under pressure at all.
No, some people crumble and freak out and like get on the floor and cry or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people pressure breaks people,
Mhm. I've been in stressful situations a lot of, being the job I do. And, one time someone had a heart attack at work and I'm like, oh shit. So I had to just spring into action and like do what I thought was right, which is call 911 and make sure like I was talking to the guy, he was responsive and he was good to go. And luckily 911 got there in time. And, that was a good time to, really be calm in that situation. Most people were freaking out and I'm just like, all right, don't freak out since that's going to make this worse.
The guy was still aware and talking, and Nick was giving him mouth to mouth. He's like, "Why are you kissing me?"
yeah. Like, are you okay? No. It was good that he was still talking because like any longer he could have been dead.
Well, you see, that's a perfect example of what we were just talking about. Like, you could have someone that's like, "Why am I a security guard? I hate this job," and then something like that happens, and you're like, "Oh, maybe God had me come here to help this person that I didn't even know needed help."
That's how I saw it, honestly. Because a security guard, I was working as a security guard, and you're like a rent-a-cop. You don't really give a shit because you're just like, oh, what's my good role? I'm just a guy who's sitting here on his fucking phone and like looking at cameras. Nothing's happening. And then when some shit does happen, and you react in a way of like that, and you take care of business, then you get purpose. And
Pull your flashlight out and spring into action.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit, man. But it's nice because, like, people did say, like, the guy even came up to me. He was like, "You saved my life." I'm like, "Okay, dude, don't be saying that to me. I'm not a hero here, but I appreciate it." I don't like the recognition like that, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Feels good though, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it feels really good, but also like I just don't want it to get to my ego. Like
Yeah,
I don't want it to get to my head. Like anytime, like people tell me all the time I'm doing great and all this stuff, and I'm just like I like the validation and all that, but at the same time, I don't want it to get too far ahead to where I sound like I'm a cocky bastard. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a difference between accepting a compliment and letting it get to your head.
Yeah, there's a difference. I'm just really bad at accepting compliments.
Because sometimes
Right.
people giving you
See, and
compliments, God's reassurance, like, "Hey, you did good, buddy." When you self doubt,
that's
Yeah.
where worthiness comes in. Like, well, that's something I've learned is that if you have a hard time accepting a compliment, it's because you don't see your self worth at a higher level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that you can accept the compliment and be like, hey, thank you. Like if someone's like, hey, you're really attractive. Hey, thank you. But again, like you said, Nick, you don't let that get to your head. You don't let the ego be, flared up by that. You're just like, I appreciate that, thank you, and you move on. You move forward.
Right. Yeah. And like, sometimes, when you get compliments, you wanted to like tell people, and when you tell people, those people, some people are like, "Oh, now you're like egotistical, whatever." It's like, no, I'm just actually happy that someone actually said like I looked nice or like I did a good job. Like,
Exactly.
because you're not used to hearing that. So it's like kind of like nice to hear, but also like don't. I learned not to go tell the people of your accomplishments or whatever because everyone else will not be as nice about it. You know what I mean?
Well, no, yeah, they'll end up shedding negative energy over it. A lot of people just get jealous, and that's
Yeah.
why it's like, it's like for me, like when I have new developments and things that I'm trying to create, like I had a good meeting today. But it's like I don't go out and tell the world this is what I'm doing. I'm very
Right.
selective on who I share that with because it's like, then you have all the haters and but like they say, if you have people hating on you, you're doing something right. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And haters can be anybody, man. It could be your closest friends for all you know. People work in the shadows. You gotta be careful of who you
but
talk
yeah,
shit to. It
it could be your family, man. That's the
could be
thing.
your family, yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, fuck you, Nick.
Yeah, fuck you, Nathan. That head motherfucker.
Just kidding.
Then
I know.
But no, man, that's there is definitely truth to that. Like, that's where that being tempered, the word tempered comes to mind. Like, this good stuff happened, great, but it's funny that what you just said, Nick, because me and Brian have talked about that before, where like so many people just need to hear one simple thing
Yeah.
to help change their thoughts or give them some type of hope.
Yeah.
And like, but at the same time, on the other side of that coin, those people that are like jealous of you have something within themselves that they don't like that you're exposing, even though it's not like a spoken word.
No, yeah.
Because like Brian, like you said, energy. When your positive energy gets around a bunch of negative energy, the negative energy gets irritated and is like, "What the fuck is that?"
That's what
absolutely.
I'm saying. You can't take opinions of weak minds when it comes to that shit. They will
Yeah.
try to bring you down, and that's why I'm saying, like, as long as you know your intentions and you know what you put into this world, you're fine. You have to know your intention zone, what you mean to people, and what you bring. If you're just here to bring light and positivity, you're already way ahead.
Mhm.
And it really does make people uncomfortable because they're so used to doubting themselves or just being so in the dark that they don't care about anything other than dark and negativity because they surround themselves about every single day.
Mhm.
Whether watching the news, whatever. It's like you can't live in negativity your entire life. It has to come a point where you're like, all right, this is enough. You know?
But that's where these systems, that's what they thrive on, right? They know that like if they can get people to live in fear, it
Oh
keeps you
yeah.
small, and fear sells. So people are just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna watch all the negativity and all the drama. And I'm like,
Right.
why don't you consume more light than anything all day? Like, so I tell people I'd rather live with my head in the clouds. Yeah, it's like I know what's going on, but guess what? I'm gonna stay in that positive state as much as I possibly can and be
Mm-hmm.
consumed by that and be that light for the people that need it, right? And it's like we said, like you said, Nate, like when you share that light, like that tends to just bring up the something that needs to be transformed in people, right? That's why they end up hating and doing all this shit because they're basically it's something that they're ignoring about themselves that needs to be shifted. So.
Well,
Yeah.
well, it's called a television for a reason.
Yep, tell I vision.
Yeah, bro, it's telling you a vision of what to
Yep,
believe and what to fear.
And the TV's been around for how many years that it's been manipulating people this entire time. So
absolutely. Yep, you're always being programmed. That's why you got to
yeah.
be careful with what you're watching and what you're consuming. That's why I tell people consuming is not just what the food you consume; it's what do you consume with your mind.
Yeah.
That's even more, that's almost even more important, honestly.
Mindset is everything, and especially in life, mindset is key to success and to how you hold your life down. And like, it's just everything is just crazy, man. But it's honestly kind of cool because it's like you can kind of see the shift happening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tables turn every single day, and with shit being brought out like darkness and all that, it's gonna shift. It
Yeah,
has to.
Yeah,
all darkness comes to light
Yeah, and that's
eventually.
why I always say evil will always have its day. So why do people stress about it? You
yeah.
know?
And like I always say, it's always darkest before the dawn. That's why everything's happening the way it's happening, because we're about to hit that dawn, baby. It might take a bit, but it's happening. That's why we have that shift of consciousness on the planet. This is more awake than anybody's ever been in human history. So
Oh yeah, we're about to have that big reset button pretty soon too. I can sense that.
absolutely.
Because there's more. Like I always tell people, there's always more good than there is evil. You just got to focus more on the good. Because like we talked about before in the beginning, it was one bad thing could be whatever. There could be 20,000 good things that happen to you, and you're going to focus on that one bad thing. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm just thinking. You said hit the button, and all I can think is Trump. We gotta hit the button. We gotta
Oh.
hit the button. You know?
He's
Oh
another
my
one that's got to
God.
hit the button too.
Yeah, he's gotta hit the button on his fucking brain.
Yeah, he's gonna be taking well, the whole Epstein shit.
Oh, look, hey, Nick said it right. That's weird.
Yeah,
Really?
this is not Epstein.
It's not Epstein.
Fuck that
English
guy.
came around. His English came around.
Yeah, it's because we're live. It's only because we're live. I fixed my shit. Just
Right?
playing.
Exactly.
Oh, dude, I don't know,
Well,
man.
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
Basically, just be real.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Just be real as fuck, and don't give a shit what other people try to say. As long as you know your intentions and you have a good heart and you know what you bring to the table, you're set to go. That's my intention.
Authenticity. Always
Yep.
be your most authentic version. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. Be unapologetically you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, be who God made you to be, not who the world tells you to be.
Right.
Exactly. Yep, that's it.
That's all I got.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you in the next one. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe.
Have a good
Figure it
night.
out. Sending you guys love.